Hey guys, do you work in emergency medicine, an absolutely crazy and intense environment where you see things every day that a regular person doesn't see once in their entire life? Do you feel burned out, unappreciated, like there's no one you can talk to about the things you are struggling with? Well, you are not alone. I have a bunch of real professionals with real stories here with me today that can relate to your struggles. I've struggled with burnout, discouragement, and frustration many times and still struggle with it occasionally. My name's Aaron. I've been in emergency medicine for 15 years as an EMT, paramedic, and now emergency medicine PA, and I am the host of the Practical EMS podcast. We've got some new guests with us today and some returning, so we're going to jump right in and do some introductions and talk about some awesome topics today. Does anybody want to talk more about leadership? Does anybody have anything?
It's overrated.
Overrated.
I mean, you can always go, especially from the nursing perspective. If you don't have good back end leadership, that's a real struggle. I will die on the hill of nurse to patient ratios. I will die on that hill, which sometimes is not valued in certain systems. But like good leadership all around is noticed when it's lacking. Yeah. But I mean, I think team-wise, leadership in the room, leadership in the patient's room and patient care is we've kind of touched on. So that's
We've had a recent leadership change where I work. And, it hasn't completely changed yet. And I think one of the issues, and sorry if you're listening, old leader, there's a huge difference between management and leadership.
yes.
And he was a manager.
Yeah.
And, managers, they motivate people by rules, regulations, consequences. That's how managers lead. Bottom line, I said, and leadership, leaders, they lead by vision casting and showing this is where I want us to be next week, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and getting the people on board with that vision. That's what a leader does. And we didn't have that. And so he's no longer there and we're getting somebody else.
Yeah, I see it too as an APP in the ER, like just leading by example, like being willing to clean rooms and, do some of the dirty jobs that have to get done and need to get done quickly if we're expecting an ambulance and things like that, I think too. And just having a calming presence and not having this anxious presence that, amps everybody up. Like you should be the calmest person in the room, regardless of level really. But I think it's more important when you're the provider because people kind of respond to you. And if you're walking into a room super amped up, you're clearly anxious, I don't think you're helping everybody. One of my principles because I'm writing a list, is don't sprint through the ER. Don't walk fast through the ER. You should be walking, I think, as a provider, you should be walking slowly through the ER because you look more in control of yourself. And when you're sprinting through the ER, and if a patient's dying, coding, sure, all that goes out the window. But most of our patients are not. And I think you should be walking at a normal pace through the ER, not sprinting, not speed walking, because you should be having this calming presence on everybody. And if a patient's critical, that's where it becomes more important to be calm and, say what needs to be done, talk to everybody, because when you amp everybody up, things don't get done properly. Things get done too quickly. Things get missed. And I just think walking through the ER, and that's something I don't always listen to myself when we're busy. I'm like, walking, I'm going to save 5 seconds, walk into this room really fast, but I try to slow down and just walk to the room. We're going to get everything done in an orderly fashion. Multitasking is a myth. You can only do one task at a time. So
that's the conversations I always had with my trainees whenever I was an FTO. It's like, we're supposed to be the cool, calm, collected ones. And, if you start freaking out, the family's going to freak out. And then family's freaking out, everything's just going to get 10 times worse.
You could be freaking out up here, but not out here.
One thing I always say is like, you're a duck treading water. On the top, you're calm. On the bottom, you're sitting here scared shitless.
I always tell my interns, it's about 20% skill and knowledge and 80% acting.
Yep.
If you act, and it takes a conscious effort because you're in life and death situations, and it's sometimes really hard to be calm. But I've seen it, and I can boast about that. I'm one of the calm people. on scene usually. And, I've seen a lot of times where I've walked in on a pretty chaotic scene and have everybody there go, because I'm known as a calm, person. And I have had, back when we used to patch on the radios, I've had critical patients where when I was doing my patch, we would get in and, the charge nurse would be like, we didn't really realize that it was this bad because you sounded like you were bored and halfway asleep. But yeah, you're right. You have to show that calmness. Urge, squeak.
That's how it was with me and my old partner on night shift. Him and I were always calm. And whenever he was teaching me ALS stuff, we would show up to a scene and everyone's running around scared shitless. Him and I would literally have our hands in our pocket and we would just look at the patient, look at the vitals, be like, okay, we'll just go from there.
I would tell my interns sometime, I've told them, some of them, that you have to be calm enough so it's like, they could say, hey, your face is on fire, and you'd have to be, okay.
Yeah.
Jocko Willink, like one of the best leaders ever, right? He has this saying where like when they were like in battle, like they're getting engaged, someone would come up on the radio and say, stand by to get some, but they're not freaking out. They say it calm, like stand by to get some. Like totally calm, like they're under fire and they just super calm. And that's where they took the pride, was that calm level, stand by to get some.
He's one of my favorites.
Pretty badass.
He and Leif Babin are just, if you want to talk about leadership, if you can read those books, The Dichotomy of Leadership.
Nate, if you can read those books.
Dichotomy.
That's a big word.
That's a big word.
I'm still trying dictionary words.
And
what does dichotomy mean?
Extreme ownership. Yeah. Those are great books for sure. And if you listen to them, they actually narrate their books.
I don't know if I've ever heard Leif Babin's voice, but Jocko's got a great voice.
He's actually got a more commanding voice.
Does he?
I think
really?
he does. Yeah.
I haven't heard it. I'll listen to that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have like any impactful or cool stories from that they just want to share? It doesn't have to be with any particular topic.
I was about to say, I got stories for days. Which one do you want?
I can tell a happy story.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Love happy stories.
So I was thinking about that question. And so I was like, I know which one I want to tell. It's really short, but it made my day. So it was when I was working in the emergency room. And it was this little old lady. She was old. She was like 105.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She was there for UTI. And
weird.
I know, right?
Odd how that happens.
The weirdest thing. But she was just waiting for transport back to her facility. And all she wanted was a Coca-Cola. And I was like, I know where to find those.
I know where to get those.
So I cleared it
The
with
code is.
Yep. I was like, I'm going to break a rule, but it's for the better.
Yeah.
So I just cleared it with the doctor to make sure that she could have something to drink. And I went into the EMS room and I took a Coca-Cola out of there and I brought it to her. And she was just like, oh, this is just the best ever. And like that literally just made like my whole week, honestly, because
Giving her Coke.
those are my favorite stories. Like,
absolutely.
Not just the cool calls, where you know that you can utilize your skills and be really good at them, but being that comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all she wanted was a Coca-Cola. And I was like, I'm getting her a Coca-Cola. I will go buy it wherever, whatever I need to do, I'm getting her one.
That's awesome.
The old company that I used to work with down in Arizona, they would, we talked earlier about maximizing opportunities, and they actually would give you a class. That they had a class that you first took. It's called Signature Service, and it was about ownership and working with the intent of putting your name on it, right? And then the next year they would follow that up with a class called Maximizing Opportunities. And what they would do is they would teach you to watch for opportunities to give outrageous customer service. And we've talked about my friend Ed that we picked up that had MS and cancer, and we ended up taking him to his son's wedding and stuff. And that's where I published that story. And the cartoonist Steve and his ex-partner Kim, they came up with Sentimental Journey at our company, and it's gone nationwide, and that's where that was spawned from. But you tell that story, and it reminds me of another one, and it doesn't take anything to do these kind of things for people. We had this little old lady that we picked up at one of our nursing homes. It's way up in the northwest part of town. It's a Catholic nursing home. And this little old lady, she had fallen or something. I can't remember what was wrong with her. She was sick. And she was just, if you looked up curmudgeon in the
big ass word.
Sorry. If you looked up curmudgeon in the dictionary, it was her. She was a grump.
Okay, thank you.
Grumpy.
I'm not good with big words.
Yeah. If it's got 3 syllables.
Yeah.
3 syllables.
Curmudgeon.
Yeah. So anyway, she was just awful. Just absolutely awful to us. And she said, she was name calling and everything we did was bad. And, oh, you hit that bump. We came around the corner to the other ER that's on, anyway.
Yeah.
Catholic hospital.
There you go.
And right across the street is a Catholic church. And she saw that out the back of the window. And she goes, oh, that's my church. She goes, I would just do anything just to get a calendar from the church because they would have what was going on, and she didn't have that. She missed that. She had no family. She had nothing here. And she really missed that. And so we dropped her off, and this is before HIPAA. And I walked over across the street, went into the parish, and I said, I think I've told this before.
I don't think I haven't heard.
Really?
I haven't heard.
Anyway, so I walked in to the parish, and there was this young novice priest, and I explained that we had brought this lady over. I said, she's very cranky, but I said she really wanted a calendar. And he goes, here. And he goes, who is it? I will come visit her in the ER. So I told him. And so I went back over there, and she's still just awful to the nurses, awful to the doctors. And I walked in and I said, I got you something. And she just went, and she just totally changed, completely turned the corner, completely. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. She goes, you must be a good Catholic boy. And I said, Baptist boy. She goes, really? And I said, yeah.
And not good at that.
Yeah. Yes. And it just, and it happened, that's been 30 years ago, probably, or so, 25. And I still see it I can see every aspect of it. And those are the things that really make this job worthwhile, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the snatching somebody from the, one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. When you can do that and grab them away from that and go, those are great stories, but those little ones, they're even better.
Yeah. You can just hold on to them for so long.
Yeah.
And they really fill your cup.
It's so vivid.
Yeah.
To this day, and then you build on those and you watch for opportunities to serve. I mean, we're here to serve, right? And that's this whole job. And if you don't have that servant's attitude, then you're in the wrong job.
Everything you hear today from myself and my guests is opinion only. It does not represent any organizations or companies that any of us are affiliated with. The stories you hear have been modified to protect patient privacy, and any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental only. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice nor used to diagnose any medical or healthcare conditions.
Honestly, just like kind of a side note, I think that there's a lot of people that are in the wrong job.
I agree.
Nobody says anything about it anymore. It's like you're not allowed to.
I do.
I'm glad that you do, but it's like there's this mindset. I'm totally changing the topic that you're not allowed to say that anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people need to hear it.
Yeah. Some people, it's late in their career that they realize this isn't the right place for them. And maybe they need to be in a different specialty or, something. But yeah, it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about in the past that you go through, especially if you 0 to hero, right?
Yeah.
If you go to EMT school and then you go right into paramedic school and you don't have any of that. When I went to paramedic school, you had to have a period of time working as an EMT.
Yep.
When I interviewed with Dr. Gordon at the school I went to, he would not accept you unless you had 5 years working as an EMT to go to paramedic school. And so even at that, he told me, I don't think you're going to make it because I didn't have any paramedic peers that I worked with. But if you go from 0 to hero and then you get on the ambulance, the example that I gave when we first talked about this was that you have teachers, they go all the way through college, right? They do 4 years of college and most programs, they do their student teaching at the end when they should be doing it at the beginning. Because you get through all that 4 years and you've got that 4-year investment of going to school and you start your student teaching and go, God, I hate kids.
Yeah.
I hate them. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere near them. They stink. They smell like sweaty armpits and I don't want to be, and they're just jerks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And now they've wasted 4 years.
Well, I think you don't belong in this field if you're not willing to teach those that know less than you know either. I mean, this is such a learning and teaching job that, I mean, you're constantly helping people with their education level. They're helping you. I mean, if you're not willing to teach and be taught, this probably isn't the right field for you either.
Well, that's why I'm an FTO is because that keeps me fresh because I get all these smart kids that come out of school that, I went to paramedic school in 79, there's a couple things that have changed since then. I mean, they haven't moved parts in the body or anything, but still, there's things that change and I keep fresh because I get students that help me keep fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right.
In nursing school, the nursing school I went to required CNA licensure and gave points on the application, like this ambiguous point system, right? But you got points for not only having your CNA, but working as a CNA. And it's like, then you really know the literal shit you're getting into and the personalities and some of these things that come out. I mean, I think that was a big setup for success, but it's tough, but the servant's attitude it can start beginning all the way through. Another reason why I die on the hill of nurse to patient ratio is we live for that. I would love, the number of times I've gone into that coded room and held up to the cameras what I'm taking out for a patient. It's a tea bag. The patient just wants tea. We've taken that out. Things like that. It's like, if you lower that, we'll have more of those magical moments for those patients and taking it from the worst day of their life or real close to it on the bad end to being like, well, last time I was there, they really cared. Somebody did that.
And it charges your battery.
Yeah. And it makes me a better nurse.
Yeah.
It makes me a better colleague. It makes me a better person. It fills all of the cups.
Absolutely.
But like, if we don't have the time to do that, then you also have the innate guilt. Like, well, I know I probably could have, but I didn't have the time because the room next door needs this and the room next door needs that, we can get into that. But like, that's it. Those are the little moments in this that combat some of the burnout.
Yeah, because I mean, I die on the hill of patient advocacy. That's the hill I die on.
Yeah.
Like I don't really care how old you are, because like I said, like I joined this for the emotional side of things. Like I don't really care how old you are. I don't care if you're 12 years old, and if you want to sit here and end your life, I'm going to treat you like a person. And like I've seen it a lot through the years that people don't treat them like people just because they're under 18 or people who are trying to end their lives, they just treat them like shit. But I mean, kind of like what you were saying, like I'll die on that hill for patient advocacy and I'll die on a hill to make sure that you feel like you're a human being and that you're heard as a person, because that goes a hell of a long way, because some people who aren't in EMS or who aren't in a hospital, some of them feel that we're just going through the motions, but then you have that one person who will give you a tea.
I love to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
I really am not here. I mean, a paycheck is great.
Yeah.
I need one of those.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I am really here to hang out with some sick people.
Yeah.
Help and maybe feel better. My goal is for you to feel better.
Yeah. And that goes a hell of a long way.
Yeah.
Because you get that one person who will listen to you, get that one person who will heal you or get you tea, just those small things.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a hell of a long way.
And also, patients don't give a shit about the quality of our medicine. They don't care that we're doing good evidence-based medicine. They don't care that I'm ordering the right workup or finding the diagnosis. They care how they're treated by the staff.
Yeah.
And that you
Humans.
listen to them. They care that you took the time to listen to them, that they felt heard. Like, that's what they care about. They don't give a shit about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we care about, and we need to care about it. But ultimately, they actually want to be treated like humans. That's what they care about,
Because they're like, cool, I left the hospital feeling better, but damn, those guys were assholes.
Yeah.
Chances they come back when symptoms re-arise, not so good. Chances they come back even sicker because they don't even want to be there
Yeah.
is even worse. Then you're in that situation of you should have come in sooner, which is a tough spot for us and for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's disheartening too, and it's heartbreaking when you say that, and they say, "Well, last time I took an ambulance, they treated me like crap. Or the last time I was in the emergency department, they just blew me off, and they were mean, and it doesn't take anything to be nice, even if you can't help them." It doesn't take anything to be nice.
Yeah.
And whether they've got something wrong or not, you just got to be nice.
Yeah, I've heard, literally, the sentence you just said, I've heard, first things out of patients' mouths was, not even what their name was. It was just can you please not medicate me first? Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And they're like, oh, well, the department and the ambulance crew, they just stabbed me in the ass. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. And that was heartbreaking to hear that stuff. Because, literally just kind of what you just said. Mm-hmm. First sentence out of that person's mouth, can you just not medicate me? They're bipolar, going through time. And people, some responders and healthcare providers, that I've noticed, they don't take the time to listen. They don't give a shit. Yeah, right. And, oh, you're just giving me a headache.
Right.
Go to sleep.
Well, I medicate people quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's when I do that, when I don't clean it off and when I'm putting it right through the jeans or whatever, it's because we're in a fight.
Yeah, it's danger.
And yeah. So you have to pick those battles and treat them. I've walked in many times and gone, while they're, but they're in the middle of, five, WWE. And, but you're right. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of, and I'm not good at that. I'm not. I know my limitation when it comes to that. But I have a partner that is absolutely stellar with patients like that.
So as they're talking, you're drawing up the meds.
Yeah.
I will say it's harder from the APP side and the physician side to get that time at the bedside, because oftentimes if I am spending that time, the ball's not rolling in their care. I can think of, my dad had a heart attack a couple years ago and we went into one of the hospitals, and I appreciated that the doc came in and spent about 1 minute looking at the EKG, getting the history from my dad, and then going and calling the cardiologist and doing all that shit. Because everybody else can take their time in the room, give him some meds for his pain, but I wanted her in and out of the room when time actually matters. So it is hard on, I think, as an APP to actually spend the time in the room sometimes, especially when it's something where time matters. And that's not every patient, but sometimes you need to be getting orders in and things rolling, because it'll actually make a difference, and you don't get to actually spend the time reassuring the patient, especially if they're having an MI. I'm kind of in and out of the room pretty quick.
But what the first thing they're asking for is you.
Yeah.
It's always, it's that dichotomy of that with that.
They're like, has the doctor talked to me? Well,
has the doctor?
They were here for about 30 seconds. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
I've got to go here in just a few minutes, but I do have a story, and it's off this topic. We were talking about technology earlier, and here's my shameless plug for the mobile stroke unit. Just a cool story, and it never ceases to amaze me when really cool things happen, right? And so we had gone on a call, and it was at a urgent care. And this guy was in his 30s. He'd walked in. His NIH score was not very high, but he was talking like this. And so we did a workup on him. We put him in the mobile stroke unit, MSTU, mobile stroke transport unit.
Are you having a stroke?
Yeah. And I smell burnt toast. Anyway, and for those of you who don't know what that is, out in TV land, it's an ambulance that's got a CT machine in it, CAT scan. And it's a 4-person crew. We have got a nurse, a radiology tech, an EMT, and a paramedic. And they all have a specific job to do when it comes to the call. And so we respond, and we assess this guy, and he's got slurred speech. Doesn't have any unilateral weakness or anything like that. So we put him in the system, and we give him TPA on the way to the hospital, to the stroke center. And back when we were given TPA, and we get him there, and I went and did my chart. And like I said, he was talking like this. He could hardly form words because his dysarthria was so bad. And so I went and started doing my chart, and I came back to check on him. And I walked in and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing pretty good."
Yeah.
And I went, F and A.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Cotton.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things about paramedicine is like when we'd have somebody with that's hypoglycemic, and we can give them sugar and they go, ba-ding.
Yeah.
So the technology is so cool, and that we've found out that, the average, because we were involved in a study, the average door to drug time on that ambulance is 13 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
13 minutes. In the comprehensive stroke center.
That's like
it's
still running the mile.
Yeah, it's right. Oh gosh. Yeah. Gosh. 13-minute mile. That's great. In the comprehensive stroke center, their standard is like 30 to 45 minutes. In a stroke center, it's 45 minutes to an hour, right? Door to drug. And we're doing it in 13 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing.
The efficacy of this program is so right there, But anyway, that's one of my cool stories. And I just, it's my shameless plug. Yeah. Even though I don't work for them anymore, I'm so proud of them and proud of the time that I worked there.
Cool. If you guys got any value out of this today, if it resonated with you, encouraged you, the only thing I ask is you subscribe to the show, give a 5-star rating and review, which will help a ton. I don't make any money on the podcast, and it does cost money to do it. So if you want to support the show, go to practicalems.com, join the email list, and subscribe on any podcast player. You can find the clip stuff on YouTube as well under Practical EMS. And we will see you guys next time.